cocaine or meth or popping pills. He was smoking pot and spice. That was it. After he was permanently expelled from high school, his mother and I, who were divorced, decided he should come to live with me. His mother and I were best of friends, probably the most amicably divorced couple you've ever seen in your life. And she thought it would best he come to live with me and go to Bridgewater Raymond High School. And I know some of the counselors here from there and knew him. What happened next is we got him into a treatment program. He fought it tooth and nail. It was really bad for 6 months, but eventually he accepted the fact that he had substance use disorder. He couldn't use drugs at all. And what happened was that, once he became drug and alcohol free, he excelled almost immediately. See, Emmett was always a terrific student and a good person before he used drugs. And after he became sober, he had an exceptional high school life. He went to semifinals, prom, he belonged to school clubs and engaged in all kinds of extracurricular activities. He had 2 best friends who didn't use alcohol or drugs at all and didn't ever get into trouble. Emmett himself had never been arrested or been in any trouble of any kind in his entire life. The only trouble he was ever in is he got expelled from high school for smoking pot. He was an exceptional BMX rider. He rode at Woodward. He had 2 best friends, Tommy and Alex, and neither one of them ever used alcohol or drugs. He had a girlfriend named Allie, whom he adored as his high school sweetheart. Many of the pictures in the PowerPoint behind me on the big screen accurately portray Emmett's life. He enjoyed life to the fullest. Family trips to Maine for fishing, snowmobiling, quadding, or when we rode roller coasters all over the country. We spent endless hours with his mom, with Zachary and his little sister Alice, who adored him. He was a son that Amy and I were and are incredibly proud of, because we had the pleasure of watching our son, who was born, you'll see one of the slides. He was 2 months premature. He was so small I could hold him in my hand. And he grew from that tiny baby into an exceptional person and man he became. He's hardworking, focused, and self-motivated. I had both his mother and I have the unique luxury of having 2 children that we've never had to ask to do their homework their entire lives, and they both achieved National Honor Society. But Emmett was also responsible. He used to get up 40 minutes early for school every day to drive his brother to the bus so he could go to Catholic Memorial. Then there were Emmett's less obvious traits. He was a really sensitive kid. He was an amazing and caring older brother. He was a leader to all his siblings and all the kids that knew him. And I had a unique relationship with my son. From the age of 16 to 18, when most teenage kids don't want to be near their parents, he would come in to my room at night, and lay beside me in bed and talk to me and share everything with me. I knew every drug he ever did in his entire life. I knew everything. And when he got sober, his life was just simply amazing. He had so many thoughts and dreams for the future. He was a great communicator when he was sober. He loved to talk to his mother and I. After graduating from BR as a National Honor Society scholar with a 4.27 GPA and full academic scholarship to college, Emmett's future couldn't have looked brighter. The summer of 2014, he was so happy. He spent it with his friends, with us family, with his girlfriend. He loved all of us unconditionally, and it was an amazing summer. My Facebook profile photo and a couple of the PowerPoint slides here tonight are from the day that his mother and I moved him into Worcester State University in late August 2014. It was one of the proudest days of all of our lives. Emmett was as excited as we were for the next chapter in his life. But when Emmett got to college, he almost immediately started drinking and smoking pot, which was very alarming to us as parents. You see, Emmett has substance use disorder. He has an allergy to alcohol and drugs. He can't use any in safety. His body and mind are different from a person that doesn't have substance use disorder. His craving for more alcohol and drugs, struggled with his mental obsession, very quickly escalated for him from smoking pot and normal college drinking to him seeking other substances for greater highs. When his mother and I voiced concerns about his alcohol and drug use, he immediately terminated communication with us. We could pay for him to have a cell phone, but we can't make him call us. And there was nothing we could do to get any information from the school because he was over 18 years of age. What we didn't know at that time was that Emmett had started using heroin 4 to 6 weeks after arriving at college. By December 2014, Emmett had overdosed for the first time. He called to tell me, not because he was scared, not because, he knew he'd done something wrong. He called to tell me because he was afraid I'd get mad about the cocaine. And he was already trying to manipulate me. He was trying to tell me a story that it was his first time, he'd never used it before, and that he'd never use it again. He had finals the next week, and he assured me he was going to take his finals and he was going to come home, which he did. He took the finals, he did phenomenally well his first semester. He came home to live with me over Christmas break, and during that break, he explained to me how he started using it. You hear these stories today, it's a lot of stories about how kids start on pain pills and then eventually they don't have the pills and they graduate, to other opiates like heroin. Emmett's wasn't like that. It was more like the normal peer pressure thing. He was drunk, smoking pot at a college party, somebody offered him a line, he did it, and he fell in love instead. But while he was home that Christmas break, we got him back into treatment with all the people he'd been with before. He was doing very well. We were regularly drug testing him. And everything looked great. He told us he wanted to return to college. He had learned his lesson. He'd never use heroin again. And he would get connected with treatment in the Worcester area. He returned to school in late January 2015 with a plan of coming home more often, going to meetings in Worcester, and using a school counselor at Worcester State. However, once he returned to school, he again made communication between myself, him, and his mother almost impossible. Being concerned parents, we tried to do whatever we could, which was, we both lived locally here. We would drive out to Worcester, take him out to dinner, try to get him to go to meetings. We'd have friends from home calling him. We're trying everything, but he wasn't having it. He's an adult. Unfortunately, he didn't do any of the things he promised. He didn't go to meetings unless we dragged him. Cut off communication again. And this is what the disease of substance use disorder took from him. He became disconnected from all the people he loved. He wouldn't even talk to his family or best friends from high school or his high school sweetheart. Academic problems developed quickly. Within 9 weeks, he was either failing or in danger of failing every class. His lies and manipulation just increased with his drug use. All the amazing character traits I talked about a few minutes ago evaporated as his drug use increased. He isolated more and more and was suffering on the inside from guilt, shame, and remorse of using heroin and not being sober. This time, only 9 weeks after dropping him off at school, he called me in desperation, explaining he needed to go to a detox. The minute I hung up the phone, I called his mother, told him what I was doing, hopped in a pickup truck I owned, drove out there, collected him and all his stuff. I had no intention of him ever going back to college again. I drove him straight to Cape Cod and put him in a treatment facility. He did a 7-day detox. We got out, we brought him home, and he relapsed almost immediately within 3 days. This time I put him back into the same detox a second time. He was supposed to stay for 7 more days. On April 12, 2015, on his 6th day of detox, he signed himself out, and I was pretty angry. He came home and we were sitting at my kitchen table having an argument about him leaving treatment when my phone rang. And my uncle and I had called to tell me that my 30-year-old cousin Kyle had just overdosed to that. He lives in Stoughton. The same day that my son signed himself out of treatment, my cousin overdosed to that. I only have 6 cousins. I'm from a small family. The power of the disease had him so much that he couldn't, I'm talking to him and saying, Emmett, can't you see that God's trying to send you a message? I mean, Kyle just overdosed and died. And he said, no, not me. No. he was still trying to defend, his right to drink and use drugs. His mother and I were terrified at this point. We begged and pleaded with him to stop using heroin to get back into treatment. I personally brought him to my cousin's funeral services. I made him sit there the entire time across from my uncle and aunt cousins and watch the devastation that his overdose had on my family. But more so, to have to watch the pain and suffering it had on the people who were left behind after they're gone. My uncle and I each took time out from their son's funeral to pull him aside privately and talk to him, because they knew he was going down the same path. His mother and I decided at that point that we were going to put our son on Vivitrol. Vivitrol is a shot that's administered once every 28 days. It's an opioid blocker. It's so that if someone who uses opiates tries to use them, they can't even get high. His agreement to use Vivitrol, his first-hand experiences at my cousin's wake and funeral, and him living at home with me, being drug tested, going to meetings once again, renewed our hopes that maybe this time he'd find sobriety. He was not. He's at home with me and his brother. He's surrounded by all the people he's had success with in recovery. His mom and I talked to him about, taking a semester off from school, focus on treatment, sobriety. It was April, and he said maybe you could go back to school in January. He got a job doing construction that summer, working for a friend of mine. We drug tested him, went to meetings, and quietly we became hopeful that things were going right. I honestly didn't really want him ever to go back to Worcester State. I was hoping that he would transfer to Bridgewater State, because Worcester is where he got connected with heroin. And what we didn't tell him was, when I picked him up in April of 2015, I medically suspended his full academic scholarship. It's such a great scholarship. He not only went to school for free, but they paid him $1,500 a semester to go to school. And I didn't want him to lose that. So I medically suspended it with the hope that I could transfer to a different state school later when he was sober. Unfortunately, in mid-August of 2015, Emmett, who was a very intelligent young man, figured out on his own that I had medically suspended it. He must have contacted Worcester State directly, did all the paperwork that he needed to do without my knowledge, and he had it all set up so he could go back to school in late August 2015. Well, as you can imagine, that didn't go over too well with me. We had a huge fight. Basically it started off with me voicing my concerns about him returning to that place and using drugs. And what happened was that our voicing our concerns and fears about his decision quickly escalated into a big argument. And Emmett told us he was sick of living by our rules, he was sick of random drug testing. He told me he was only going to smoke pot and that he knew what he was doing with his life. After that argument, Emmett promptly left and went back to Worcester. He now had an excuse to distance himself from me and terminate all communication with me. In fact, I didn't speak with him at all from August until mid-November 2015. Our entire family was terrified, knowing that if he started smoking marijuana or drinking, it was only a matter of time before it escalated back up to heroin, possible overdose and death. Once a substance use disorder sufferer uses any alcohol or drugs at all, they're already in danger. Because once they're drunk or high, they can't make informed decisions about other things. Like he gets high, drink beer, and smoke pot, heroin sounds like a good idea to him. In November, Emmett reestablished contact with me, told me he had secured a job in the computer department, which was his major, and that he was doing very well in school. One of the slides is, in December 2015, he made Dean's List at Worcester State. He called to tell me how excited he was that he made the Dean's List, and a few days later I got a certificate in the mail. Again, our hopes were renewed because he appeared to be doing well on the outside. Unfortunately, at that same time, he told me that this Christmas break, 2015, he wasn't going to come home and live at my house. He was instead going to live at the parents, his college girlfriend's parents' home, who he met. And that girl's parents. I tried to convince them not to allow him to live there, but they wouldn't hear it. Frankly, they told me it was none of my business where he lived, which I couldn't believe, but that entire Christmas break, I only saw him twice. I saw him at our family Christmas party on Christmas Eve. I had a big party, probably 40 people, and when we saw him, it was visually apparent to us that Emmett wasn't doing well. He looked ill, he looked thin, his color was gray, his spirit was dark. He wasn't the same strong Emmett that we knew. He wasn't the fun-loving, witty jokes that he'd been all his life. If I attempted to address or discuss drug use with him in any way, shape, or form, he became immediately angry, told me he was only smoking pot, and tried to guilt me for even questioning him. I saw him one more time over break, and he was high. And when I tried to talk to him about it, he shut me out and left immediately. Emmett used to love to spend time with me, his mom, his brother, and sister. However, when he was using alcohol and drugs, Emmett either didn't show up at all for an arranged visit, or came, stayed a very brief time, and left as quickly as he could. He no longer wanted to be around the family who loved and adored him, and whom he loved. Emmett returned to school in January 2016. I only saw my son one last time, on April 9th, 11 days before his death. He had promised for months to come stay over at my house, and on that day, April 9th, he was supposed to come over and sleep over. He showed up late. It was obvious that he and his girlfriend were both strung out, and we were supposed to go out to the movies and go go-kart and all these things. He said, "Let's just watch a movie at home." We did. My girlfriend made a big dinner with all his favorite foods, and they sat there. They didn't eat anything. They pushed the food around. Halfway through dinner, he was already picking fights. He was trying to get out of there. He was fighting Zachary. He was saying inappropriate things to my girlfriend. I'm a tough love parent. I do not enable. But for some reason on that night, I kept my patience. I knew what he was doing. I knew he had to go get high. So I told him it was okay. I understood he had to leave. I was just trying to love him. When I got up, before he left, I hugged him. I looked him right in the eyes and I said, "Please don't shoot Bill. Just finish your finals and come home, and I love you." And he pulled back. He looked me right in the eyes and said, "Dad, I love you. I promise I won't." He overdosed and died in Worcester on Wednesday, April 20th at 2:17 p.m. His total period of heroin use was from October 2014 to April 2016, only 18 months. And he was sober 3 of those months. So his total period of use was only 15 months. That is the terrifying fact of heroin and opiate epidemic in our country today. Our children, brothers, sisters, friends, and loved ones are dying much more quickly and in much larger numbers. Today, they estimate that 4.5 people overdose every day in Massachusetts. 129 a day nationally, or 47,000 a year. Since my son's death, I've spoken with many professionals in the field, and they frankly tell me those numbers are likely much higher. The scary part is that we're not even sure there aren't more unreported deaths each day. And most agree and anticipate that this number is going to continue to grow unless some drastic action is taken. However, I'm not here tonight to talk about statistics. Emmett's story is unfortunately becoming more common. People with substance use disorder that use heroin or opiates or benzos don't last for many years. If you go online and you Google Emmett Scannell obituary, you can read his obituary guest book. It's over 115 pages long. It has entries from 46 states and several countries. You can read how the vast majority that die due to overdose are under 30 years of age. You can also see that sadly not enough is being done about it, and that we're all affected by it. It is our responsibility, including everyone here today, to work toward finding solutions to this complex problem. Where we have to start is by immediately destigmatizing the disease and raising public awareness of the severity of this national health crisis. What Emmett's mother, Amy, and I decided to do from the very beginning, while we drove out together from our homes to the hospital in Worcester to claim our son's body, we knew before we ever left our houses that he had already died. We drove there and we talked, and we decided from that very moment that we were not going to just quietly sit by in grief and not use it as an opportunity to educate people. If it could happen to our family, it could happen to anyone's family in this room. You may not want to believe it could happen to your family, but that simply is not the truth. What we decided was to use his death through his obituary, through our Facebook campaign, through everything we've done. I did a very public eulogy that made national news, and we've used every chance we've gotten to help raise awareness and stop the stigma associated with substance use disorder. You see people in their teens, 20s, 30s, and 40s who die suddenly or unexpectedly, like you read in the newspaper or online. Those are all substance use disorder deaths. So many families are embarrassed or ashamed to speak about it, and that's why we spoke out. The public needs to understand that substance use disorder is a disease. It's not a choice, it's not a moral issue, it's not a lack of willpower. Next, the public needs to understand that substance use disorder is a treatable disease, not a curable disease. We absolutely need better long-term treatment because the treatment currently available is terribly ineffective. We're only at the very beginning stages of this health crisis, and because it is so stigmatized, most people don't even want to admit they have it, and they don't want to ask for treatment because they're embarrassed. If I have cancer, I'm not ashamed to walk into a hospital to ask for help and treatment. But because I have substance use disorder, I don't even want to ask for it. Never mind the fact that there's not enough available. The disease is really stigmatized because most everyone here tonight, and most everyone in the public in general, call the disease addiction, not substance use disorder. Addiction is a term that's very negative, and as long as we keep using negative term, then it's going to be a self-perpetuating stereotype. It's going to take years to change the public's perception of this as a disease so that voters and politicians will see necessary to approve funding to have treatment. However, all I can do here is try to do my best to educate others. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm trying to promote awareness of substance use disorder and answer any questions you may have about it. As you've seen through the PowerPoint slides, we have several ways people can connect with us through social media, and we urge you, your friends, family to join us, to get involved and to help out in any way you can. Please, whenever you have an opportunity to explain or discuss addiction or substance use disorder with family, friends, neighbors, or anyone else, be sure to explain it's a disease, not a moral weakness or a choice. It's just as important for us to spread the word person to person in regular everyday conversations as it is to have TV commercials or posts on social media. In fact, the personal communication, person to person, is much more effective. I've found that doing these talks and speaking to people has a lot more effect than if you just read something on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. You students who sit here tonight will very shortly be in high school and college and looking for causes to support. They call them college activists for a reason. You'll be voters in the next 3 to 5 years. This will be the national health crisis that your generation will be dealing with for the next 10 to 30 years. So why not start now? The reality is that many of you in here tonight already know someone that's probably overdosed or died due to an overdose. It's staggering the number of people that I've come in contact with, and it's many people like yourselves. And you want to believe, that old stereotype is the guy that is under the bridge or in the gutter, but it's not. it's kids like Emmett and you. There's a lot of, it's almost scary that it seems to be the more intelligent ones. That's who it happens to. So, in closing, I explained to PCC that I'd like to do a question and answer for anyone that has a question. Listen to me, there are no stupid questions, and I can handle any questions, believe me, I've been doing this for a while. Zachary's also here, he's willing to answer questions, and I also want to let anyone know that if you have a private question, you don't want to ask it publicly, I will hang around afterwards and help you out if you need someone that needs treatment or anything like that. So here's my assistant. How are we going to do this with the mic?
If you have a question,
if you have a question,
go around with the microphone.
So bring the microphone too.
Does anyone have a question?
There you go.
This is, you said that your cousin had it as well as your son. Does that mean that it's somewhat genetic?
Yes, they do believe there is a genetic link. I mean, they don't. The reality is they don't fully understand the disease. Some families have more than others, so I would say there's a genetic component, but it's not purely genetic. So there's plenty of people I know that they have no family members that have a problem, and just one of them do. So it can be environmental also. Good question.
Anyone over here?
What was his major?
He was a computer science man. Actually, he started off as a pharmacy major and then switched to computer science.
Anyone else, you can raise your hand.
At present, they do not have any test to they haven't isolated the gene or anything to tell. But, I mean, I personally think you can tell a little on your own. But the thing about substance use disorder is really no one can tell you have it by yourself. I mean, a doctor might be able to, but you have to decide. If you start to drink and you're already thinking about the next time you're going to drink, before you even finish this time, you might start to have a problem. I'm not going to, actually, I don't know if there's another question. Sorry.
Is it like a disease of the genes, or is it something that you can catch? Like, could anyone have it?
Anyone could have it. It's not contagious. A lot of people, like in the old days through Alcoholics Anonymous, people thought it was more of a disease you could acquire, like through environmental sources, like being exposed to a lot of drinking or something like that. Today, they think it's much more of a brain disease. I mean, in your lifetime, I imagine they'll probably be able to isolate it, but right now, there's no way to test for it to know that you have it. That's the sad truth. It's more like behavior. If you get out of control, maybe you should look at your drinking and drugging.
Would that mean it being mental? Yeah, like mental health.
I can't hear it.
Asking if it related to mental health.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the direction it's headed. It's much more of a mental health and behavioral disease. And, the treatment today is more in lines of, they try to do replacement therapy. Like if you have an opiate addiction like heroin, they try to give you Suboxone or methadone. But it's far more important to get into treatment, like counseling. Because what opiates do is they hijack your brain. They change the way you think. An important point that most people don't know is, does anyone here know why they don't allow people to rent cars before they're 25 years old? Why? That is correct. No one's, I've done this many times, no one's ever gotten it right. It's because your brain's not fully developed until you're 25. So a lot of people think, oh, it's only marijuana, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It is going to affect your brain development. I mean, hey, if you smoke it once or twice, you'll probably be fine. But if you start using it regularly, like Emmett did, it will affect you. And that's why there's such a big concern about legalization of marijuana now. Because I hate to tell you, but the marijuana of today is not like it was when I was your age. You know, when I was your age, it was nothing. Today it's like 50 times more potent. And it's probably doing damage to your brain. Never mind the stuff they sell you in convenience stores where you're smoking chemicals that you don't even know what they are. So the best advice is don't do it, but that's not always possible.
How do you help someone if you can't force them into treatment and you can't force them to do anything?
Well, that's an excellent question. If you're, you know, I'm going to tell a really quick story because I think it's really important how to tell it to audiences of this age. Emmett had a close friend. You know, it was like his first girlfriend, kind of. They never really did anything. It was just, you know, a crush when he was like 9 or 10 years old. Her name was Morgan. Morgan knew that Emmett's drug use was completely out of control, and he used to talk to her at night. And I found this out after he died. But what happened was, you know, they were buddies, and she knew he was in real trouble. And instead of coming to me and/or Emmett's mom, who she knew both of us, she decided not to tell us because Emmett threatened her and said, listen, if you tell them, I'll never talk to you again. So instead, she didn't say anything, and now he's dead. So Morgan has to live with that for the rest of her life. It's not fair, Morgan, I get it, but the reason I tell you this is because if you have somebody that's struggling, you're not doing them a favor. You're not being a good friend by not telling them. You know, the reality is, I know kids that have used heroin once and died. I know people that have tried it the first time and died. It does happen. You know, that's real. It's not imaginary. And to getting people help, the reason I tell that story is, look, maybe you don't know what to do, but if you talk to someone like me, or a teacher, or a guidance counselor, or, you know, a doctor, they will put you in touch with people that can. There are ways to get, like, for example, if Emmett continued on and he kept overdosing, like I could go to court and demand that he be put in treatment, but that's a very extreme example of what you can do.
With your experience, what are your thoughts on how big e-cigs are among adolescents in today's world?
I think it's not a good thing because there's no long-term statistics on whether it's good or bad. And it's already, in my opinion, bad because what they're doing now is they're using it for drugs in states where it's legal, like Colorado. They've already started to incorporate drugs into vapes so that they can, like, ingest drugs even faster, which is completely insane. And they don't know what the effect these things are going to have long term. I mean, who knows what vapes are going to do to you 25 years from now? No one's been doing it for more than a couple of years. So I would avoid it. I don't use one. I had a question. Well, I have no doubt in front of me, just to have her ask.
You can ask.
Ask.
It's fine.
To use heroin? No, I never found out which specific person. I knew a couple that were doing it. And it's such a small world, people don't realize. You know, I was speaking in a men's treatment facility in Brockton. In Brockton, they have this thing called men's alcohol treatment facilities for alcohol and drugs. These are people that are put there against their will by their parents. And I go in and spoke there. And I spoke and I told my story, but I didn't use Emmett's name. I just said my son, my son, my son. And at the end, the kid came up to me and he said, what's your son's name, Emmett? And he had used with him and was in the same position, had overdosed several times, was a brilliant kid who had a full scholarship to Worcester Polytech, and lost it. And the sad reality is that the saddest part of the disease is that you suffer in silence. You isolate from everyone else. You don't want anyone to know. You're embarrassed to talk about it, except to other people who already have it, and it's like trying to dry off with a wet towel. You can't get good advice from somebody else who's in the throes of it.
Hi, I'm from the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands it's actually legal to use marijuana, and like overdoses aren't like a really big problem like back home. And why do you think that it's so different here?
I think it's different. That's an excellent question, but it's probably going to half an hour to answer it. But the short, really concise answer is that everything is criminalized here. So all the money is spent on prevention, police, as opposed to getting treatment for people. In countries like the Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, they've changed the way they do things, so they focus on treatment. So instead of spending billions of dollars on prisons to put people who shouldn't be in prison because they're, have substance use disorder, they could take that money and put it to treatment, and there wouldn't be millions of people in prisons. It would make society more productive and a better place. But in America, we're just not there yet. It's still a hidden in the shadows kind of thing that nobody wants to talk about. And unfortunately, look, I do this to raise awareness, so hopefully your generation will think about it differently than my generation. Because my generation is closed-minded and they don't want to think that treatment is the solution. They all sit there and go, it's not going to happen to my son, so why should I do it? So the follow-up question.
Was there ever a point when you were like frustrated or thought about giving up because you couldn't do anything because he was 18?
I mean, when he cut off the first year, no, I would never gave up. Even when he came home to live with me after, Emmett overdosed like 4 times. And the sad thing is, the further he gets into his treatment, see, my son died quickly, meaning, he only lived 18 months after he started. So what happened?